Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Inspired Action Life podcast. I'm your host, Karen Baldridge, and today we have an incredible guest that I am so honored to have on here and speak with today. He has been impactful in my journey and my career change and mindset upgrade, but he doesn't know this yet, but we're going to reveal that during this episode. But he is an absolute powerhouse in the leadership and culture initiative space. He's been doing this for 30 years, so I think we can safely say he's been on the leading edge of this. His name, a lot of you will know him, is Tim Kight, and he is the founder and CEO of Focus 3, and it's a company that is dedicated to enhancing leadership and culture initiatives and individual impact fostering. And that is one of the things I love about his program. He is also a keynote speaker and a contributor on a New York Times bestseller book, as well as had coverage in, you name it, Wall Street Journal, ESPN, and everything in between. He has been very involved in not only corporate organizations, but sports organizations, trying to reframe and enhance the culture and leadership initiatives within there. And he has enjoyed great success doing it. I saw him speak when that book came out, and I was dazzled. So he's also a very good and dynamic speaker, and he kind of got the ball rolling for me in terms of how to upgrade your thinking and how it matches your outcomes. He's amazing, and I can't wait for you to hear his entire story, because we're going to go through his success journey. We're going to really hammer home how he fell into this industry when, in fact, this wasn't even an industry, not even all that long ago. I mean, it's very, vibrant now, but he was in it before it was really a well-known initiative. And so I can't wait to dive into how he followed that breadcrumbs, followed his promptings, just like my series is Success Leaves Clues. I want to see the clues and the breadcrumbs that he picked up in order to enjoy the success that he has. So in just a moment, he's going to be hopping on here and we are going to be diving in. Please enjoy this conversation with Tim Kight. All right, everyone, as promised, we are back with Tim Kight, and I could not be happier to have him on my podcast. I am honored. I was just telling him before I hit record what an impact his presence, his program, his mindset has made on my career. He doesn't even know that, but I thought it was a good time to let him know, because it's nice to know that your work has impact in the world. And so I filled him in a little bit. Now I want him to inspire you next, because I've gotten what I needed at this point from him. But let's have him tell a little bit about his story and how success leaves clues for him, because everyone's got a story and we're about to hear his. So I'm throwing it over to you this morning, Tim. How are you? Thank you for coming.
Absolutely, Karen. Thanks for having me on. That whole notion of success leaves clues is I believe that 100%. I've noticed that my whole life long as I research and as I observe, and whether it's a deep research into human psychology and neuroscience, or what I call observational research, as I watch people and document what successful people do differently than average people. Yes. I believe success leaves a blueprint. I don't think that it's a secret what it takes to succeed at something. Unfortunately, though, it's common sense, but it's not common practice, and so that really is, if you will, my arc, my trajectory has been what I just said, and that is I have had a passion to observe and document how people go about their life, their work, their sports, their profession differently. And I noticed that successful, elite, high performance people go about it differently than average people. And real quick, when I say success, I'm not talking about money or fame.
Thank you for verifying.
I'm talking about, to me, success is producing desired results with integrity.
Yes.
And you can be a low-paid social worker working in an obscure place, and you can be elite and successful.
Yes.
and you don't make much money and nobody knows about you, and you don't have much of a social media presence, and
Yes, all the
well,
things.
but you're impacting people's lives. And so I don't want anyone to think of success as primarily scoring touchdowns or points in an athletic game, or it's how much money is in your bank account or how big your house is.
Yeah.
It's all about, are you achieving the goals that you've set, and you're doing it with integrity? And to me,
Yes.
that's ultimately what success is about. And the
Yes.
principles of success apply to all
Yes.
of those, apply to all those things. Whether you're a social worker or the CEO of a multinational company, the disciplines of success, the blueprint for success doesn't change.
Again, I want to thank you for bringing that point up, because as I was, teasing, when I found you, it's not like I was pursuing success at that point. It was more, I was doing work so that I could help contribute to the family as a mom who was trying to stay home with my kids, but also bring in some sort of sustenance to the family budget. But it wasn't out of love or desire of my job or my career. It was more just to get by, that autopilot, which I know is kind of a big point in your coaching program. So your success to me was that I was able to realize that I could script my outcomes, that I could then make something not just a far-fetched goal and like, oh, I hope I get it, but I could find a path there once my mind was able to see that it was possible.
Wow, you just used a word. And we'll get to it in a second, but I want to remember the word path. You said a path to get there. Remember that word. Let's come back to
I will hold on to that.
So the blueprint for success, as I understand it, the blueprint for winning at anything starts with know your why.
Yes.
I think that's step number one if you want to be successful in life. Know what your purpose is.
Yes.
And at the lowest level, human beings are motivated to avoid pain and experience pleasure. That's low level motivation. And in fact, we share that with animals.
Oh, yeah.
Animals also
True
want
enough.
to.
It's
Yeah,
true.
we share that with them.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people living at those lower levels of purpose.
Yes.
But at the higher level of motivation, people are motivated to fulfill a purpose, to know and understand a why greater than self.
Yes.
And might I also say that not only do they motivated to fulfill a purpose higher than self, they also motivated to do that in fellowship or relationship with other people. So I look at pain and pleasure as low-level motivators, and purpose and people as high-level motivators.
Oh, well said. No, that's
What everyone needs to understand is they've got to discover their why and bring their why to their work. And I think a mistake, Karen, people make is they want their work to give them their why. It doesn't work that's not how it functions. You have to bring your why to your work. Like I said, you can be there's that old story where I forget, some guys in the ancient days, he's walking by a place where guys are chopping out stone, a quarry. And he sees a guy, he sees three men working. He asks the first guy, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm chopping out stone." Ask the second guy, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm just chopping out stone, trying to feed my family. Ask the third guy, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm helping to build a cathedral."
Oh, okay. That slight shift.
Yeah. So his perspective on what he was doing, he saw working in that quarry through the lens of a bigger purpose.
Yes.
And I'm not suggesting that working to feed your family is a lower level purpose. That the point being is that you don't want to just go to work to make some money so you can feed your family. And you don't sense anything. We bring our purpose to our work, and that is hard for some people because I think people over-identify with their job.
Yeah.
I say this to my athlete clients and my coach clients all the time. You're right. Football is something you do. It's not who you are.
So true. I mean,
hockey. I work with some NHL players. Hockey is what you do. It's not who you are. I tell a CEO, being CEO of that company, that's something you do. It's not who you are. Who you are is separate from that.
How
Blueprint
do you
number
close
one.
that gap for them? Like, I'm curious. So like when you go to approach, because somebody, again, let's just assume they've not heard of concepts of being able to marry the two of, well, purpose. I mean, like what, I mean, how am I supposed to come up with that? You know, that's always the first question, right? How do you find your purpose? But how is it that you go about, like, in a quick soundbite, you know, closing that gap between
Yeah,
what they do and finding purpose?
and good question. It doesn't happen fast. You have to spend time alone.
Correct.
And the key to it, ironically, is keep asking there's an old Japanese management principle called the 5 whys.
Mm-hmm.
You keep asking, why do you do that? And then why do you do that? And you keep asking until you get to the deeper levels. You got to peel back the layers.
Yes.
You got
Yeah.
to keep peeling back the layers. Well, no, why? And then keep asking that. Now, for me, my faith plays a role in that, and I have 5 whys.
Okay.
Like one of the challenges is people think there's a singular why. I don't think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
And
agree completely.
my 5 whys are, and I thought many years ago, I thought deeply about this. My 5 whys are: honor God, love my family, master my craft,
Mm-hmm.
be a good friend, and contribute to my community.
Mm.
And those are my 5 reasons for existence.
Yes, I love that. And you know what? You bring up another, which is something that comes up with anybody I talk to as well. And not that we're going to dive deep in that, but understanding that we can marry the concept of honoring God and having faith, and that this is part of that. It's not in competition with our faith. It's kind of in communion with our faith, just high, you know,
Yeah.
seeking the highest purpose that we are on this earth to serve. I mean, we all come down with some sort of mission, so to speak. And I see it as a confluence of concepts as opposed to.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I know that faith in God is kind of dwindling in our nation, which is unfortunate. But if God exists, and I believe that he does, and he created everything, and I believe that he did,
Mm-hmm.
and he created everything, including us, with a purpose in mind.
With a purpose.
And, you know, in scripture, it says that God labored 6 days
Mm-hmm.
and rested on the 7th. And then he tells us to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that means work is purposeful. Work is meaningful. It is not separate from higher purpose. And again, you don't have to have faith in God to have a higher spiritual, meaningful purpose. That happens to be me in my faith, and I don't impose that on other people. But neither am I embarrassed to share that that's a part of the way I look at the world.
Right.
So then the blueprint, Karen, number 2
Mm-hmm.
would be clarify your goals.
Okay.
And you got to know not only why, but you got to know what you want to accomplish. And you said it earlier, and that is that craft your outcome. You know, I'm a deep believer in E+R=O, which is event plus response equals outcome. Got the wristband.
Have your bracelet. Awesome. Yes.
Never forget about it. Because clarity is power.
Yes.
And I've always believed if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it.
Every time. Yes.
You know?
Every time.
So it's very important to understand whether it's a situation that you're in, like given this, I'm driving my car, someone's tailgating me. Okay, well, what outcome do I want? Yes. Is my objective here to get angry and flip that person off, or is my objective here is to be calm and be safe?
Yes.
You know, and get to my destination safely and without stress. And so we have to think with the outcome in mind. Yes. And here's the other thing. This is you operate at your best when your goals and your purpose are in alignment. So you got to match the first 2. So know your why and then clarify your goals.
Yes.
And for some people, I think the better people in the world, their values determine their goals. For the manipulative people, their goals determine their values. And their values change based on what goals they're trying to achieve.
Correct.
And that's utilitarian, and it's manipulative, and it's dangerous, and it's all over politics today on both sides of the aisle. So number 1 in the blueprint in my mind for winning or for success is know your why. And the number 2 is clarify your goals.
Yes.
And then that leads to the third one, and that goes to the word you use, the path. Number 3 is focus your action.
Yes.
Goals are great, but they mean nothing if you don't have a clear understanding of the pathway necessary to achieve your goals. There
Yes.
is a path.
Yes, there is, but you'll never know it's there if you're not looking for it. As you said before, you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And again, I think that that's where, being that I was, somewhat on the path that you described that you're trying to remedy for a lot of other people, I was on that. So I'm still somewhat familiar with that you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do because you were never asked. Your busyness of life, you get caught in the busyness of robotic stuff. So it's bringing those points up of really sitting down and understanding, like you said, your values will determine what exactly it is that you're aiming towards. What is that goal? Maybe it's just to have peace and to live with security and safety and peace. It may not have anything to do with career. It just may be like, I just want to have peace and enjoy what is.
I certainly agree with that, but I would also say think in terms of what contribution do I want to make to the community where I live. So
Yes.
like I'd like to be, and I'll push back a little bit, Karen, on this,
Yep.
if I might.
Yes.
I don't believe it's possible to be effective and just have peace as your primary purpose. The reason why is life is messy.
It is.
Life is messy, and there are people in situations that need to be challenged. We need to be. We're not flawless. We need to be challenged.
Yes.
Right. We have weaknesses and blind spots, and so as much as I'd like to have a life of peace and calm, but life just doesn't always go the way that I want. So it takes courage.
Yes, it does.
It takes you have to hold people accountable. I mean, you're a mom.
Yeah.
I mean, how much peace do you have? I mean, how many kids do you have, Karen?
3.
How old are they?
I've got 24, 21, and 19.
Okay, so when they were all teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
how much peace were you experiencing?
Not so much, and not so much peace. There's not a day that you go to bed peaceful. And even as they live out of the house, it's still, there's no peace. Maybe I should clarify peace. Peace meaning that no matter what you throw at me, I know how to turn it around for the good, as it says in scripture, I can make it for the good of those who love.
Yeah. So, and I think, yeah, you just tapped into it there. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the kind of peace you and I are talking about is not situational. It's not circumstantial.
It's never going to be quiet.
I mean, if you follow social media, you know this, and here's I'm doing chemo. I've got.
Yes.
Well, you talked to Jill.
Yes.
And it's not going well. I'm 4 years into it, and I was at hospital yesterday in Charleston, and saw a new oncologist just to confirm, there's another options available. Bottom line is, I'm approaching the end, and yet, and we don't know when, right? I mean, it could be a year from now, it could be 6 months from now, it could be 2 years from now. We don't know. Yeah. But here's the point: I'm at peace. I'm at peace.
Can you tell me what tools that you have garnered along your path that has promoted that peace, that ability to have that? That would be inconceivable to some people who are hearing you say this. How?
Well, I'll go to that's a timely question. I'll go to the fourth discipline in my blueprint for winning, which is own your attitude. Yes. So know your why, clarify your goals.
One of my favorites.
Focus your action, and then own your attitude. And everything depends on mindset. Yeah. Here's an interesting truth: where your mind goes, you go.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it's so true. I love that you say that, because and that seems like, what? Those are very simple words. Those are small words that aren't consequential in and of themselves, but when you put them together, the truth of that is deep and it's profound. Where your mind goes, your energy flows that way.
Yeah, I mean, your mind is either putting up barriers that hold you back, or it's building bridges that move you forward. Yeah. And the one of the great truths of life is that you are the one who's in control of your attitude. That's one of the great truths of life. Your attitude is something that you choose. It's not something that happens to you. It's something that you choose. Having said that, The reason why it's so difficult to have a productive, positive attitude and mindset is because there are aspects of a human brain, of a human mind, that lean towards negativity. And in fact, it's called negativity bias, negative positive asymmetry. The human brain is more attracted to negative things than it is to positive things.
Yes.
And you're going to have negative impulses. I have negative impulses.
We all do. Yeah.
Everyone does. Yeah. And I always tell people, you are not responsible for your first impulse. You're responsible for your second one. It's
Good one. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have
So
all
good.
kinds of thoughts and feelings that flow through your head. And what you have to have is awareness
Yes.
of what is happening inside of you so you can harness it. I like to tell people this: harness your emotions and make them work for you, not against you. Don't feed emotions that undermine your effectiveness.
Exactly.
The key to peace, no matter how bad a circumstance may be, is to make sure you're focused on the right things and you have productive. And here's the thing: you got to have productive self-talk. You cannot tell yourself negative stories. You can't. And we're constantly talking to ourselves. There's an inner voice we all have.
Thank you. Yes.
And that inner voice is either above the line or below the line. That inner voice is either talking to us in a discipline-driven way, it's helping us, giving us strength and peace, or it's below the line and it's undermining us and it's giving us worry and fear and lots of negative emotion. We choose that voice.
Yes.
I'm the author of the voice inside my head. And when I feel and hear that below the line voice, which, by the way, the below the line voice tends to shout.
Yeah, so it's very loud.
It's
We've
very
let
loud.
it be. It's an undisciplined child. Like if
It is.
Never disciplined our children. It's
yeah. We like to say it is quick, careless, and convincing.
Yes. Blame, defend, blame. And
yeah, BCD.
complain.
Yeah, it loves to blame, complain, defend.
Love that.
Therefore, when I hear that voice, the sooner that I recognize it's that voice, it's that self-talk, that's those negative stories, and I recognize it for what it is, and I recognize what it's trying to do to me, I quickly replace that voice with an above the line story. Right
there is the difference maker. It's not only what it is, but what it's doing to you. Because again, if you believe and buy into the concept that wherever your mind goes, that's where your outcomes will flow that way. And so I'm very careful now because of, some of the formulas that you were laying out in your keynote speech, and that anyone who is listening to this to very much cultivate and curate those thoughts and to make sure they are productive.
Yeah, you're using the right words, Karen. It's cultivated. Now, having productive self-talk, replacing the below the line negative voice with an above the line positive voice, that's not easy to do. And here's why: because once you give birth to and start feeding counterproductive emotions with that below the line voice, those emotions demand that negative story. And what happens is people get locked into almost an addiction to negative self-talk.
Yes.
And then they get locked in and they've been talking negative to themselves for so many years. To untether from that.
Yeah.
It's a very, very difficult thing to do. But here's an important illustration. This is a great metaphor.
Yes.
A negative attitude is a self-imposed prison that you put yourself in. The lock is on the inside of the door and you have the key. Let me say that again, because that's really important.
Please say that again, because that's going to be in a sound bite when I put this out there, because that's important.
A negative attitude is a self-imposed prison cell where that you put yourself in, where the lock is on the inside of the door and you have the key.
Oh, so good. So good. So good. And yet it seems implausible. I'm just thinking about how I've used this just on my interpersonal life, these kinds of concepts. Let's just say my teenage daughter, she doesn't want to believe that, any of this stuff is true. She's just getting into the concept of how do you sell somebody to understand that literally, if you want something else to be different, it really started, Mom, that's like mumbo jumbo. No, it's really not.
So she's 19, Karen?
Yeah.
Where is she in college?
Yeah.
Where'd she go?
Kentucky.
Love it. Now, here's my experience. I'll share this with you.
Okay, please.
Because I'm an old guy and I've been around. I got the grandkids now.
Love it.
What's your daughter's first name?
Veronica.
All right. I'm going to guess that Veronica does believe what you're saying, but because she's 19, she kind of has to push back.
Yeah. There could be that. She's certainly.
Well, I speak from experience.
All
I have
right.
to so many young people in high school and in college
Yeah, you have.
who just kind of want to push back on this stuff. When they get away from mom and dad, the number of parents who have told me that their kids, mom, will you stop with that E+R=O?
Yeah.
Mom, would you, dad, will you? And then later on, they discover their children actually are using it.
Yeah, quietly, so they don't give
friends.
any credit to their parents. Yeah,
that's So
that's consoling. That's
I'm
consoling.
just telling you, I can guarantee you this. There's a part of Veronica's heart where what you say resonates with her, whether she admits it or not.
Yeah. I guarantee you are probably right. And she's not going to be quick to admit it, because as with many people, the old stories are what they are with her and many people. They're a little hard to beat back. And it's like, but like that addictiveness to drama and adversity. We almost have like an addiction to adversity, like always waiting for the other shoe to drop, or that type of thing, unfortunately is very pervasive.
Well, that's the negativity bias I was telling you about, right?
It's true though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very pervasive, and it's very hard to talk people out of. It's like they want to feel better, but they don't want to believe that it's possible.
Yeah, because the human mind is a lot more attracted to negative things than it is to positive things. And there's so much negativity in our society today. Yes. And young people are being bombarded by cynicism, negativity, and nihilism, and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, here's my next discipline for the blueprint for winning, and that is embrace change.
Yes, embrace it.
That success goes to the people who adapt to changing circumstances quickly and with a positive attitude. And often it's someone's ability to adjust and adapt that makes all the difference in determining what they achieve, because what we do doesn't always work, and we have to recognize when what we're doing isn't working and change it, or what we're doing used to work, but the circumstances have changed, and so now we need to adjust and adapt to different circumstances. COVID being a classic example, all kinds of things like that. Yeah. But anyway, the point being is that change is uncomfortable, and people don't like change, and unfortunately, what we've done is we've forgotten that it's not change, and change is uncomfortable. I get that. You can't alter the reality that change is uncomfortable. Right. But it doesn't have to be stressful. And what we've done is we've made the false equation that discomfort equals stress.
Yes. Yeah, no, you are right. They just automatically assume that now here comes those stress feelings, because again, once you get that feeling in there, then the outcomes, it's going to dictate your actions, and then your outcomes are going to be the result of the actions that you took because you were uncomfortable.
When change happens, you can respond with discipline or react on default. That you get to choose.
Love that. Okay, right. Love that. It's true.
So big message again: don't equate discomfort with stress, and understand that it's the mindset you bring to change, not the change itself, that determines your stress level. And we live in a rapidly changing world, and today's world deals ruthlessly with people who don't deal well with change. And I don't think anybody in 2023 has any business being a change resistor. In fact, resisting change or complaining about it is not going to make it go away, but it will make it a whole lot more difficult to deal with. Oh. So I watch people. It's a principle of first do no harm. I mean, change is hard enough. Don't make it harder by complaining about it.
Right. Yeah. How is this productive? I mean, it's not going to change the outcome. It's just going to torment your own soul. It continues to torment you. But I mean, I think that like with discomfort though, would you agree with this? I feel like, in some ways that's the thing, that's the catalyst that helps you make the change. So sometimes they'll say purpose and pain, and while none of us likes anything, especially in light of what the struggle that you are taking on, that is not said lightly, but sometimes the changes are a result of some of your biggest discomforts that you
Can
had.
be. Yeah, I mean, some people, they need that big
Yeah, that event, that's something.
to be the disruptor, to be the catalyst, whatever. In general, though, my observation is that because people don't like discomfort and people don't like change, and change is uncomfortable, they just avoid it and they make things worse, and then they rationalize and then they complain, they BCD because things have gotten worse, and the reality is no, the change is real.
Yes.
And you need to deal with it, and it's uncomfortable. So embrace it. We call it embracing productive discomfort.
Yes. Yeah.
And go get busy making the changes you need to make, build the new skills you need to make, shift your mindset back to self-talk again. But
Yep.
like if you have a below the line negative voice about change, you're going to feel negative and you're not going to deal well with it.
Right.
And that's a you issue.
Yeah. Again, it always comes back to you. And may I just say that was one of the things, and I'm sticking a pin in that for just one moment, because for your programs and the things that I have been exposed to so far of your work, is what I love about it is the accountability, the self-accountability piece of it. It's not about, getting so-and-so to do something as leadership. It's not just that. It is that. But it's that accountability of changing yourself, because before you change yourself, nothing else on the outside will change. And yours is a really big piece of that, which is why I gravitated towards your programs, because that accountability, that self evolvement type of mindset is what I feel like is really profound with your work. I mean, I know there's pieces and parts to other leadership programs, but that's what stuck out the most.
Yeah, I mean, that's the heartbeat of it. I mean, E+R=O is all about you own your response. You don't control events.
Mm-hmm.
And you earn outcomes by the quality of your response.
Correct. Yes, it's earned.
And it's pretty interesting. If you want a better O, choose a better R.
Oh God, so good. Yes, yes. But I mean, that is facts. That is played out time and time again. And again, that's big news for some who have not heard it in just that way. Again, I'm going to take me as your perfect example. I'm a person of faith. So you would think to a certain degree, I have had those concepts within me that could have possibly known that. But it wasn't until the day that I heard it in the way that you presented it. The timing was probably divine. I mean, there's just a lot going on in the ether world that also happens to line up with when people decide to make.
All right. So here's the final discipline for the blueprint for success, the blueprint for winning. And it's the capstone. And it's probably the one people stumble over the most.
Can't wait.
And it is... it really follows from what we just said, and it's this: be resilient. So and that is, you have to be great when adversity strikes.
Yes.
And, resilience, there's a spectrum, right? So you got to be resilient in response to irritating things. You got to be resilient in response to frustrating things. But there's a spectrum of irritation and frustration. And on the low end of the spectrum are, someone tailgating you. Mm-hmm. The high end of the spectrum is, some life-threatening accident or disease, or something really horrible that happens. But all of those things along that's resilience, or that's adversity rather. And the way to deal with that is through resilience. Now, that's something that you have to build into your life.
Yes.
And what people have failed to do is, if you get stuck on autopilot, if you get stuck on the ruts and routines, you don't take into account, in fact, go back to the blueprint we've talked about already, right? I mean, if you've not done the work to know your why, if you haven't clarified your goals, if you're not focusing your action, if you're not owning your mindset, if you're not embracing change, when adversity strikes, you're going to get your butt kicked.
Yes. Yes.
Because here's the thing: adversity, it doesn't make or break you; it reveals you.
Yes, I can't tell you how true that is.
And I'd love to make promises to people in the workshops and keynotes that follow these rules, and you'll never experience any setbacks or difficulties or problems or adversity. But that's not true. Like I said a moment ago, like raising children, just life is messy.
Yes.
Life is, I say, E+R=O. You get three kinds of events in life: neutral, painful, and helpful.
Oh,
Well,
that's good too. You are just like a machine with these
well,
helpful.
I've only been teaching this for 40 years. So,
So you've accumulated a few, but you are just like a soundbite machine here with this. I mean,
so
yeah.
here's how I think, here's my understanding of resilience and what to do and what not to do, how to be resilient. And I hope this helps people. And maybe even there's someone will listen to this podcast who is going through cancer like I am, or who has a loved one that's going through it or will go through it someday.
Correct.
And these words will be helpful to them. Because if your cancer is bad enough, you can't change the fact it's going to kill you. Right. I mean, I like, here's my attitude about it: is cancer will determine when I die. It will not decide how I live. That's my choice.
Yes.
We get this bad news, and I told my wife, I said, Brenda, in the end, cancer will take everything. Between now and then, we give it nothing. Like, today belongs to me. Today belongs to Brenda and me. It belongs to us.
That is so
So,
true.
and in the end, it takes, but that's then. So between now and then, we own our attitude. Here you go. So here's, if you will, the blueprint within the blueprint.
Okay.
So here's the blueprint for resilience. Number one, do not get deceived by excessive optimism. Number two, don't get defeated by excessive pessimism.
Okay.
Number three, don't get distracted by things you don't control. Then develop a plan, execute that plan, monitor the results, make adjustments as needed, and always maintain a productive attitude. And the one thing that I would add to that list would be acknowledge how you feel about the adversity. Don't ignore your emotions.
Oh,
I don't want people to get the impression that I'm saying that when adversity strikes, that you're emotionless, like some kind of a robot. But here's the thing: embrace the difficulty, embrace the adversity, embrace the pain, the confusion, the fear, whatever it would be.
Feel it. Yeah.
Feel it. Absolutely. And then, but don't fixate on how you feel. Focus on what you need to do.
That's the difference.
It goes back to what I was saying: harness your emotions and make them work for you, not against you. There have been a lot of tears with this cancer stuff, but we don't fixate on that.
Right.
We cry when we need to.
Right. Yeah. The humans, we were born with these emotions, and we were born to express them. And as you said, the difference is getting lost in them and getting muddled into them is one thing, or you feel it, you let it process and transmute through you, and then you move on with your
Again, you harness the emotions and make them work for you, not against you, and do not feed emotions that undermine your effectiveness. And emotions are very imprecise. Like, three things that disruptive emotions don't want. They don't want precision, they don't want patience, they don't want perspective.
Oh my God. This is so good. I can't even.
So when you're under stress with adversity, you're going to feel emotions that if you're not careful, because those emotions don't want precision, they don't want patience, they don't want perspective. You have to bring that. But on the other hand, you don't want to deny or repress the emotion.
Yes, I think that's
so see it, embrace it, experience it, feel it, and then ask yourself, what do I need to do? So don't get deceived by excessive optimism, because everything might not be okay. So don't fall for toxic positivity.
Oh, I was just gonna throw it out, the old toxic positivity.
But at the same time, don't get defeated by excessive pessimism. Oh, this is, I'm just telling the truth. No, hold on.
Just being real.
Things don't, as there's positive in here. So don't get defeated, and don't get distracted by things you don't control. Just control the controllables.
Yes, feel it, and then like kind of neutralize it, like be okay with what is, and move forward in your direction from there. That I think that's a key thing that that's a skill that I've had to learn and harness, and I think a lot of us have,
Yep.
is neutralizing, feel the feelings, and then don't make them mean something. Because I read that in one of your things too, is it, it means whatever you tell it to mean.
Yeah, here's the statement. I mean, this is another Tim Kite quote you can use.
I love it.
Situations have the emotional significance that you assign to them.
I mean, I first heard that from you, by the way. I don't know if it was on one of your podcast talks or if it, I'm not sure, but I adhere that to you. But it is only means what I say it's going to mean. It's whatever significance and I think that is gold.
Well, and think about the power of that. I mean, that shows you the power of the human mind, and that's why you cannot allow negative emotion, negative self-talk, negative stories, that negative below the line voice to hijack you and assign all this negative stuff when there are all kinds of other ways to kind of describe that stuff,
Yeah, to make it productive for your path forward or whatever your purpose. And
Yep.
I that is gold. That is just pure gold. And I love that you are there more points in that in your blueprint that I
No,
need
that's
to
it.
know
Those are the points. Know your why.
about?
Be crystal clear about your goals.
Mhm.
Focus your action, own your attitude, embrace change, and be resilient.
That is just,
And I can promise everyone listening to this, Karen, that if they go do those 5 things, their life will get better very fast.
it will. It will. I mean, you didn't even present it in this way. And mine almost had like an immediate awareness. Let's just put it that way. It started with an awareness and then it grew a life of its own because I grabbed hold of that. And so I guarantee you, anyone who has not heard it in that context, when it's their time to hear, and you know how it is, there's a time for everything under the sun. There's a time where those things will hit harder than others, right?
Yeah.
So it happened to be my timing and your timing happened to line up on that day. And it changed everything.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you were there that day, Karen.
I am so profoundly glad I was, because I would have otherwise, it would have been like I missed the boat again and I might still be a different person back then. But your words have power. I appreciate and am thankful that you allowed to sit still and let that kind of download come from. I mean, I'm going to say from God again, and other people will say downloads come from other places. I attribute it to the main guy, that I feel like some of that wisdom is born of your faith and born of something he needed for the ball. He gave you the game ball and said, okay, now, go and do what I need you to do. Go win the game and win the race. Amen. With this, and I just appreciate it. It's been very profound. And the people who listen to my podcast aren't going to be your typical corporatees people. Okay, so they're going to be entrepreneurs. They're going to be regular people. But what if regular people who are facing transitions in their life get a hold of this knowledge? How much better could our world be if people, it's so simple, but yet difficult.
Yep.
Words. And I just thank you that you have shared that with the world, and you acted on it, because you can have that. And you mentioned earlier in our conversation, it's one thing to like know that stuff and keep it to yourself, but you brought it out into the community, which is the success leaves clues situation. Something prompted you to act on it, and not everybody acts. And so I don't want to diminish that, because I think that's a big deal. You got the message and you did something with it instead Amen. Of just swallowing it. And I am a benefactor of that.
Right.
Of you doing that. So thank you so profoundly for coming on here and sharing your story and your vulnerability of your journey and how your work that you've done, and you're now talking, you're continuing to walk the walk in a very hard time in your life. And we have to be human in that journey, but you're walking it, you're crushing it. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today.
Okay. Awesome.
And blessings as you go forth today.
All right. Thanks, Karen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.